Now, I think it's pretty safe to say that when we examine the Walt Disney Company, two of the biggest divisions over there being Lucasfilm and Marvel Studios, I always like to say this, that Lucasfilm is in a worse position just because of the vicious cycle that it's caught up in, with titles getting either announced, cancelled, and rinse and repeat. This is something that always happens under Kathleen Kennedy's wing, under Bob Iger's wing, and how Lucasfilm is just in an endless downward spiral, basically. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. You can also follow me at Mike01. I thank you also very much for the great and kind support. So, The Acolyte. I don't know if you guys know anything about this show. I like to call it The Acolyte because of how much it dismantles George Lucas's vision, his philosophy, and what he actually really granted to the fans and really just dedicated his life to, and that's now being pretty much put to a complete waste, getting thrown into the trash. Leslye Headland, the showrunner of this series, the director, really came forward and made it openly clear that she wants to pretty much undo certain aspects that George Lucas did in the originals and in the prequels, and to rewrite some Star Wars history, and she continues to seemingly attack George Lucas, to really trash the original creator of Star Wars, right? So with that being said, what's interesting about Leslye Headland is the fact that she is so naive and she's so out of touch with reality to believe that the Acolyte series is going to be a big hit and that it will be a major success on the Disney Plus platform. Let's get into exactly what's going on with the whole Leslye Headland drama, and I've always said this, I believe that she's worse than Rian Johnson and even worse than Kathleen Kennedy. Yes, I said it. So, with Leslye Headland as both the showrunner and director of the upcoming series, The Acolyte, that is set to dismantle George Lucas's Star Wars and his life's work, recently Headland acknowledged the fan backlash and her viewpoints of George Lucas and of the response by delivering the following. As a woman, I think it's been long overdue for Lucasfilm to embrace female ensemble cast projects. Whether it be shows or feature films, it doesn't matter, it's about time this happened. And I couldn't be more proud to take on the release of The Acolyte. But there does lie a problem with this fandom, with this community. There are most certainly toxic males that are led to believe that George Lucas is the official answer to making a successful Star Wars film and or series, and I think that's really where the misogyny can be seen quite clearly, and why Kathleen Kennedy has been so motivated to really do the opposite of what George did from 1977 to 2005. It's very important for the industry to let go of its classic directors like George Lucas, who yes, created Star Wars, but he never truly evolved the brand or adapted it into something that would match with the modern world, and how people of this generation see the world. With The Acolyte, it was my goal to make that happen, to sort of segue into the area where you don't need Lucas's material to make a good Star Wars story. I actively stand by my belief that once The Acolyte drops on Disney Plus, all the naysayers and those that believe you need George to make something great and successful are going to immediately change their mind and feel foolish. This is a series made by women for women, and though I did grow up with the prequels, this show will certainly undo certain parts of the history of this franchise and the world that surrounds it. And you don't need the very individual who created the brand to make something like that work. I thought it was a smart decision of Kathleen Kennedy to keep George Lucas off the set of the series. We just didn't want the cast and the crew to get mixed up with Lucas having any sort of control or influence over the storytelling. We wanted to make it clear and obvious that this was my story and what Kathy always dreamed of producing for the audience that grew up with the franchise, and for newcomers, more importantly, that will be introduced to the brand. When I look back at the prequels, I saw nothing but a division, and I think George just lacked the proper filmmaking skills to make those films into classics. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love those movies, but they just aren't to be taken as classics. Now guys, let me stop here for a second. Now, Leslye Headland is coming across as one of those people that kind of like goes on the record to call out somebody like saying, yeah, I love this or I love that person, but you're really in the wrong there, and you really are lackluster in that spot. It really is kind of like a backhanded compliment based on what Leslye Headland is doing here. She's saying, oh, that she loves the prequels, but they're in no way good movies. which doesn't make any sense. But when you look at Leslye Headland, right? She's basically saying that George Lucas does not have the proper filmmaking skills, that he's not a good director, that he really did not expand the legacy right or correctly, and that she is the answer to doing all of that. And once again, she is parroting the fact that she believes that those that believe that George is the key to making Star Wars great are pretty much the source of the misogyny within Star Wars. This is exactly what she said on a previous podcast as well, several months back. Not a big shocker there. This is, again, someone that is so out of touch with the reality to the point where you can't even just compare her to Kathleen Kennedy. This is exactly why I said, and I'm not defending Kathleen by any means, but she is way worse than Kathleen Kennedy, and I can see why Kennedy would hire somebody like this. We all remember who she used to be a personal assistant for. Alright, we're talking about Leslye Headland. Now, she goes on to conclude, I mean, don't get me wrong, I love the prequels, but the Acolyte will most certainly be the new Empire Strikes Back, or heck, even the new Return of the Jedi. This will be the beginning of the new original trilogy, so to speak. This series that we created and dedicated so much time to truly holds so many twists and or turns, and rewrites the history of this mega franchise that needed some massive changes. It's been long overdue, and I am glad to have been the one to do it, and I give all thanks to Kathy for making that possible. Star Wars just isn't about males, it's about women too, and I think that's the moral of the story for the show, that women can be just as powerful as men. If you love The Matrix and you are going to love The Acolyte, because we sort of, well, mix and match those elements in the show. So again, Leslye Headland admitting that this series is basically a mix and match of Star Wars and The Matrix, which sounds a little strange. We already know that there's going to be elements of Frozen thrown in there. To be specific to you guys, in case you guys are like, what? Frozen? Like, what are you talking about? There's a sister element in the Acolyte series, and she kind of says that there's a lot of familiarity aspects to the Frozen movies with the Acolyte series. So that's one thing. You got The Matrix in there, you got elements of Kill Bill as well, as she said in previous weeks for the Acolyte. I think what this is going to turn out to be, it's going to be nothing more than another Last Jedi situation. We know that Rian Johnson pretty much ripped off a lot of movie scenes and threw that into The Last Jedi, translated it to Star Wars as a film. This is exactly what Leslye Headland is doing with The Acolyte. You're gonna basically feel like you're watching The Matrix, Kill Bill, Frozen in some areas, as well as other major films and or successful movies out there over the years, to be thrown into the Acolyte storytelling. So it's a very bad technique as far as I can see things, but I would like to hear what you all have to say about Leslye Headland's nonsense and really putting George Lucas down and just really making him pretty much seem like a buffoon at this point in time. So overall, guys, let me know what you guys have to say about all this below in the comments. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys later.